Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing well. I'm very happy to be sitting down here again to share a knitting update. I have a few finished objects, a couple of works in progress, and a few exciting acquisitions that I got from Latvia last week when I visited my family. It's also very warm, as you might know, in our northern hemisphere right now. I'm not wearing any knits, but I'm wearing a dress that I sewn myself. I made this dress years ago, maybe 5 years ago now. I freehanded this pattern myself. If you're interested in this pattern, I will talk about it at the end of this video. Now let's dive straight into my finished objects. My first finished object, I'm so excited to talk about this one, is Louvre Sweater by PetiteKnit. This is probably my favorite sweater, favorite raglan sweater that I have made for myself so far. I will try to put it on a mannequin to see if I can show you better, because there is no way I can wear this heavy DK weight sweater in this hot weather. Here she is. I hope you can see it well. So about the pattern, this is the pattern by PetiteKnit, Louvre Sweater. It's knit top down, so you start from the neck edge, and it is a classic raglan increase sweater, and you finish the body with a simple 1x1 rib, and the sleeves are knitted afterwards, and at the end it features also a simple 1x1 rib. In my last episode, I believe I have just finished splitting the sleeves. There I talk more in details about how and why I picked exactly this color, but basically this is a Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt colorway 4600. It's called Jazzy Pink. This is a discontinued color from Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt. If you're interested, I think there's still some yarn stores selling it, but I bought this one secondhand. This is about 36 grams. In my last episode, I told you that for this pattern, I made the smallest size XS. And in the pattern, it says you're going to need 12 skeins of that yarn. And when I found this yarn online, there was only 11 skeins. But as I know that I usually crop the body, also makes the sleeves shorter, so I was pretty sure that 11 skeins would be enough for me. So that was perfect. I used a little bit of the last skein. This is going into my collection of Peer Gynt scraps that I'm going to use for maybe a hat or something else in the future, so I'm not mad about that. Regarding the knitting process, I didn't do any modifications apart from the length that I shortened a little, as I mentioned, but there's one thing that I mentioned in my last video, how I made German short rows less or almost non-visible. It was a tutorial on knitting for Olive Instagram reel, so I will insert that reel picture here again so that you can go check out. I think it's a perfect method to make the German short row invisible. I think I have still a couple of them tiny bit visible because I made a mistake. So basically in that tutorial it says you're going to knit with the yarn held in the front, but actually she is knitting with the continental method, so I'm not sure if that is why, but I am an English knitter, so when I knit it, for me the yarn is held in the back. If you go check out the video, maybe you're going to understand more what I'm talking about, but I highly recommend trying that out for your next German short row. And about the needle size, the pattern recommends 3.5 for the neck ribbing, and then 4mm for all the rest. So as I always go up a needle size, I use 4mm for the neck ribbing and 4.5 for the rest of the sweater. And I was a bit confused that why we don't go down a needle size for the sleeve and the hem ribbing. So when I was knitting the first sleeves, I shortened the sleeves quite a bit before starting the ribbing, and for the ribbing I went down a needle size. And for the second one, I knit up with the pattern recommended length, and I still use the 4.5mm needles and compared those two. I think I like both too when I knit up, so I have filmed a clip that I'm going to insert here. These are different styles. So the one with 4mm, obviously it's cinched in a little bit more, but also I didn't like that I shortened the sleeves too much for that version. So anyways, I ripped it all back, added a little bit more the length as the pattern recommended, and I knit up the ribbing with the same needle size, but I just shortened the ribbing by 3 centimeters. So as you see, it's already a quite long ribbing, so I didn't want to have a long tube of ribbing on my wrist. Now I remember that when I was knitting the sleeves, I was using magic loop methods, and I really didn't enjoy that part because I'm not sure if it was getting too hot. When I was knitting on it, the stitches were just didn't want to move, and I was pushing so hard the stitches in order to knit them, and it was making this squeaky weird sound, and it was really not enjoyable. That's why also I just paused this to work on my other projects for a while. But other than that, everything was just perfect about this project. I think I keep saying that the only thing that I modified, but there's also another thing for the cast on. So you use the Italian cast on for the neck edge. It was first time for me to try out this method. I think I managed it quite well. And for the cuff and the hem ribbing, it recommends tubular bind off. But I don't know why. I don't think it makes a big difference, the tubular cast on and Italian tubular bind off and Italian bind off. I chose to make the Italian bind off for the cuff and hem for 2 reasons. The first of all, I know that I'm playing yarn chicken at that point, and for the Italian bind off, you know exactly how much yarn you're going to need at the end. And for the tubular bind off, I wasn't quite sure. And also the other reason is that, yeah, I don't see much difference in the finishing look. So I just decided to go with the Italian bind off, and I really love the result. It's always interesting and fascinating to see how the garment will transform after blocking. So I will insert some videos of me trying this on before blocking and also after. The difference was quite striking. I think this Peer Gynt has quite an interesting character. For 100% Norwegian lamb's wool, it gets a really amazing drape after blocking. I'm not sure if you can see this. And the stitch definition is incredible, and also it softens up quite a bit after blocking as well. I just wear it next to my skin. Of course I feel it a little, but it doesn't bother me or it's not itchy for me. And you can see the neckline is quite high. It's quite close to really wrapped around my neck, and I didn't find it uncomfortable. By the way, with the blocking, I was hoping that the neckline will come down a little bit. It came down a little bit, but not that much. I think I mentioned in my last episode that I wasn't sure if the neckline was too high, if I should try some method to shorten the neckline instead. But now I think it looks quite okay. I checked the pattern picture and some project picture. I think that is the look for this design. So I'm happy with that design, and especially for the cold winter days, it's going to be very cozy. And I'm sure that it's going to relax down even more with wear. So about this finished project, I really love this sweater. I love the fit. I love everything. I think I pretty much nailed it for the body and also the sleeve lengths. Usually I crop my sweaters quite a lot, and sometimes it ended up being too short. This time I only shortened the body by 2 centimeters and 3 centimeters for the sleeves, and it was perfect. I will insert some clips or b-rolls of me wearing it. As the pattern was quite simple, it was also a perfect mindless project and very enjoyable knit. I enjoyed so much the process that I already want to make another one for myself in different colors. And if any of my friends or family members, if they want a Louvre sweater, I would be also happy to knit up for them. My second work in progress is a small scarf. I don't think this small scarf has a name. I'm just calling it a Honeycomb small scarf because it features honeycomb stitch patterns. I will try to show you a little bit close up. This is a beautiful honeycomb pattern repeats. So let's start with the pattern. In one of my previous videos where I recommended a few free small scarf patterns, the last one was a YouTube channel by Susen Mehralieva, who posts a lot of free tutorial for mainly small scarves. She has also other crochet patterns, but I really loved many of her small scarf patterns. So this is the first one that I tried to make from her tutorial videos, and I really loved it. I loved the process, and this is kind of for me the ideal dream small scarf. And the pattern, it started from one tip, so you're going to knit it basically from tip to tip, and you start with some increases on both sides, arrive to a length, then when you have the ideal width of the pattern, you just knit flat back and forth. And at the end, you're going to do decreases also on the both sides to finish the scarf. It's a quite simple pattern to follow. Basically, the honeycomb stitches are 4-row repeats, and the decreases and increases are done every 8th rows. After just a few rows, maybe a few centimeters when you start knitting the pattern, you don't have to follow the video or the tutorial anymore. It's quite easy to memorize and also read your pattern. I remember when I knit before Sophie scarves, I usually can't see where I did the increases or decreases, so I always use stitch markers to mark it down. But for this one, it's not visible, like it's not like you see exactly where you do the increases, but when you look up a little bit closer, you can see it. So it's quite enjoyable that you don't have to use stitch markers to follow along all the time. The pattern recommends 25 grams of yarn, but I used 50 grams because that is what I have bought, and I didn't want to use only the half of it and try to figure out something else for the other half, so I decided to just finish this whole skein of yarn. What I did is I followed the pattern recommendation for the increase rate, and I increased maybe just a few rounds more than the pattern recommended. Then I start knitting it flat. So for the increase part, I weighed the yarn. I used 11 grams of yarn for the increase part. Then I just knit back and forth, and knit it flat without increase and decrease. And I start the decreases part when I have around 12 grams of yarn left, to be sure that I wouldn't run out of yarn. And when I finish the scarf, I still have a tiny bit of yarn left. So this much. It's probably around 1 or 2 grams left. So I'm still quite happy with what I achieved with this project. As for the needle size, the pattern recommends using 2.5mm needles. When I started with that needle size, for a few centimeters, I found it a little bit more dense. I wanted this scarf to have more drape, and I know that I knit tightly usually, so I just went up a needle size and used 3mm needles. You know, there are some projects, they are quite a project or a product knit that you can't wait to have the product, and then you're so done and fed up with the process. This one is actually both. I love the finished object. Of course, I can't wear it right now, it's too hot, but the process was so enjoyable. I didn't want it to end. It was such a delightful process. I think it's also because of the yarn that I used. So the yarn is 100% Angora rabbit wool. I have already talked about this a couple of times in my podcast, so I won't get into too much in details about this. And this has 190 meters for 50 gram, and it's from the brand Ullveig here from Norway. Now this scarf is so soft, so lightweight, and the halo was just incredible. I will try to put some B-rolls or some images so that you can see it a little bit more clearly. So that's all about my small scarf. My last work in progress is a Sophie scarf. As you might see, this is quite big for a Sophie scarf because I basically just use the increase and a decrease rate in the Sophie scarf, but I use totally different yarn weight than the recommended yarn and also a bigger needle size. And this is my 5th time making Sophie scarf and 3rd time with this yarn, which is Drops Air. I have only this this much left to show you. This is the colorway light gray. So for this project, I wanted to use up all the leftover yarn that I have in my stash from this Drops Air. So I decided to knit this until I have pretty much half of the yarn left and then start doing the decreases. Even with that, I still have around 3 grams left, but yeah, I didn't want to play yarn chicken by knitting up too much before starting the decreases. And I'm quite happy with the results. And I think this is the quite good length for a Sophie scarf, because the smaller ones, the one in the patterns, I found them a little bit too short to wrap it correctly around the neck. So I will try to wrap it quickly. So this is still like not that big, right? Imagine the Sophie scarf, like the original ones, they're much shorter than that. And I use 4mm needles for this project. And if you're interested, I noted that before blocking, the scarf was around 120 centimeters, and after blocking, it stretched up to around 130 centimeters. So this is what you can get with about 53 grams of Drops Air with 4mm needles. I don't think there's much left to say about this simple project, so let's get into my works in progress. The first one that I would like to share is the Subtle Stripe Vest by Lara Killian. This is a V-neck vest for men. I am making this for my father. I think in my last podcast I haven't even bought the yarn yet, and now I am almost done with it. I just need to pick up stitches for the sleeves and also the neckline to finish up the vest. I will start first with the yarn. In my last podcast, I mentioned that I was waiting for a sale in one of my favorite yarn store to buy the yarn for this vest. And I waited for that day and there was no sale. I reached out to them on Instagram to ask if they were planning to do any sale on Sandnes Garn like last year. And they kindly replied that they are not planning to do any sale anytime soon. I still bought from that store and ordered immediately, and as soon as I received the yarn, I opened the package and I kind of panically cast on this project because I thought this is a man's vest, size XL. It might take me quite some time and I'm going to visit my family soon, so I was a little bit stressed that I wouldn't be able to finish it. But as you can see, this is a super fast project. Mainly also because I'm using 4.5mm needles with the Peer Gynt. This is the combination that I really love, so that's why this is going super fast, I think. When I started it, I put all my other projects on hold and I knitted like a crazy person. I tracked how fast I was knitting. I was knitting probably 1 skein of yarn a day. So I finish the vest, the body of the vest, before splitting for the front and the back. It used maybe 5 or 6 skeins of yarn. So after that I realized that yeah, it's going to be done really soon, so I was a bit relaxed to working on my other projects as well. But yes, I will talk about the yarn. The yarn is, as I mentioned, is Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt. The colorway is 5575 navy. A little bit close up so that you can see. It's just quite classic navy color from Sandnes Garn. From what I have calculated based on the pattern, I wasn't sure if I would need 8 skeins or 10 skeins based on the length that I might need to modify. So just to be on the safe side, I ordered 15 skeins because I know that I love working with Peer Gynt, and this is the kind of DK weight yarn that you can do a lot of things with, so I'm not too worried if I have leftover skeins. I can make hats, maybe, the small accessories, so yeah, let's see how much I will have as leftover yarn afterwards. One small thing about this yarn, I've always had really good experience with Peer Gynt, but this time I think there is a slight problem or issues from the batch that I bought For now, at least in 2 skeins, the yarn was not really consistent, the yarn weight. Sometimes it gets a little bit thick, sometimes it was a little bit thin, but when I knit up, it's not visible, so it doesn't bother me at all, and it only happened in 2 skeins. And also in those 2 skeins, when I almost finished with it, the yarn was actually broken, and then I have like this small tiny scrap left in 2 skeins. I was a little bit worried that it would be the same for all the other skeins, but it's not the case for now. So this is what I'm talking about. So I have this kind of tiny skeins left from the 2 skeins of this Peer Gynt, but I think the rest of the skeins are safe, hopefully. And now about the pattern. So this pattern is knitted bottom up. So you start from the ribbing, which is 1 by 1 half twisted rib. I think it looks quite clean. So after that you will start this stripe pattern. It's called subtle stripe because there's a stripe, but you can see it only when you stretch it a little bit more. I think you can see it quite well. So on the front and the back you have this type of large panels, and on the 2 sides under the arms there are smaller panels. So I think there are 4 small panels here in the middle and 6 larger panels, so on the front and the back. So you knit up the body until here, then you split stitches for front and the back, and you're going to knit flat back and forth to finish it. There's some shaping under the arm, back of the shoulder, and at the end the finishing is also 1 by 1 half twisted rib on the neckline, also on the armhole. Now regarding my knitting experience with this pattern, I picked this pattern with my mom. I sent her a few pattern pictures and she picked this one at the end for my dad. I was a little bit hesitant to knit either this one or the Stockholm vest v-neck from PetiteKnit, but I think it was a woman's pattern. But in my opinion, if you want to knit a woman pattern for a man, I think it's totally doable, but I was just not sure about the sizing or the fit, and as this was a man's pattern, and I just decided to go with this at the end. Before even purchasing it, I already saw that there was a mistake in the pattern. I think in the Ravelry page and on her blog, it was different gauge. One was 20 stitch gauge for 10 centimeter, another one was 22, so I messaged the pattern designer to ask which was the correct number, because if I'm going to use Peer Gynt with 4.5, I know my gauge is 20 centimeter. 20 stitches for 10 centimeters, so I need to know that if I can hit gauge with Peer Gynt. So she messaged back that it's 20 stitches per 10 centimeters, so I ordered the yarn. There was another mistake that in the pattern it says there are 6 sizes, but then afterwards when you work the rest of the pattern there were only 5 sizes available. So it's been updated since. I messaged her. There's only 5 sizes available for this pattern, from S or XS until 2XL. So before even casting on this project, I was already a little bit stressed about all these mistakes that I found in the pattern. But I cast it on, I knitted until the half of the lower body. There was no problem in the pattern until there, and afterwards I knit the back panel first, and there was another mistake on the right and the left shoulder of the back panel. It should be exactly the same, but in the pattern it's different because she updated the pattern, and I think she updated right or the left side and forgot to update another side. So if you're going to make this one, just be aware of that. And when I started to knit the front panels, so the left and the right one, there was also mistakes that she was mixing up right and the left, and then mixing up the decrease method of slip 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 knit and the knit two together on each side. So actually now at this point, as I have a little bit of knitting experience, I can spot these mistakes and modify the pattern and make the correct version myself. But I wouldn't recommend this pattern, especially for a beginner. I was also a bit surprised that there are quite a lot of projects already on Ravelry for this pattern. I'm not sure if this pattern was tested or why all these people who have knit up this pattern didn't share any feedback with the designer. I'm planning to send a feedback to the pattern designer, so hopefully she will update the pattern, but I wasn't expecting this for a paid pattern, so it's not free. For a paid pattern come with that many mistakes. So that's all with about the pattern. For now, it looks quite good. After finishing it, I will let my husband try it on for the before blocking look, and to block it, I think I'm going to stretch it quite aggressively to get the stripes visible. And we'll share more in my next podcast about the final project. My second work in progress is a sweater that I am making for myself. This is the Louvre Sweater by Drops Design. It's a free pattern on Drops Design website. I am making this with the leftover yarn. Is Drops Melody. The color is number 27. This is actually a leftover yarn from my honey cardigan by Ullveig. I have mentioned, I think in my first knitting podcast, that from that cardigan I have almost 5 skeins of yarn left. That is quite a lot for a yarn recommendation that with that much difference. But anyways, I checked on Drops website. Sometimes when I have their yarn left, I don't know what to do with. I check their website with the free pattern so that I know exactly what I would be expecting with the amount of the yarn that I have. So there was this very basic raglan sweater with quite an open gauge. I have never made something with this large gauge before, so I was a bit intrigued. And as this is going to be knitted up with 8mm needles, by the way, in the pattern it's 7, but as I am a quite tight knitter, I always go up a needle size, so I'm using 8mm for this one. So start with the pattern first. As I mentioned, this is a top-down raglan sweater. In the pattern, there was no German short rows. I read from one of the comments on Ravelry that they added German short rows and they're quite happy with the result. So I decided to do the same. I added German short rows and I am knitting the smallest size. I believe it's the S or XS. I just split the stitches for the sleeves and I'm knitting the body right now. And I am just done with the first skein of yarn. Before adding the second skein to continue on the body, I think I'm going to finish the sleeves first so that I will be sure to have the same sleeve length, and at the end I will finish the body with the yarn that I have left. I am actually filming a kind of a knitting vlog, project vlog type of video. I'm quite enjoying it so far, so I'm not going to that much details now. So hopefully that video will be out soon so I can share that journey with you. That was all about my works in progress. Now I want to share a couple of acquisitions. When I ordered the Peer Gynt navy yarn for my dad's vest, I also ordered 3 skeins of Peer Gynt, but with the color Charcoal Melange. The color number is 1088. I bought 3 skeins of this to make a weekend hat for my little brother. And when I ordered this yarn, I had 15 skeins of navy and 3 skeins of this Charcoal Melange. I think the yarn store owner saw a good potential in some garments or accessories for men. So she gifted me some patterns from Sandnes Garn. Here is the pattern book. It's from Sandnes Garn and the number is 2412. So in this one you have quite a few really nice men's sweater and a few beanies as well. For example, I think there are sweaters like this, quite simple and elegant. This one looks a bit unusual but quite stylish, right? And there are a few beanies like this and like this. There's even a zipper sweater like this, quite similar to the ones from PetiteKnit. Anyways, I'm not sure if I'm going to make any of these projects soon from this pattern book, but yeah, thank you for that yarn shop for this nice gift. My next acquisition is from Latvia. Last week we went to Latvia to visit my in-laws, and it was also my first time to visit Riga properly. Of course, I went to a yarn shop. It was a yarn shop that I wanted to visit for quite some time. It is called HobbyWool. So I have already bought yarn from them before, and I showed you already a pair of mittens that I made. It was this pair of mittens. Back then I bought the yarn from their Etsy shop, so I will link it down below if you're interested, but this time I was super excited to visit them finally in person. I bought more yarn for mittens again. So I got yarn for 2 more pair of mittens. The first is going to be with those yarn. 2 light gray and 2 white. I believe the pattern is called a Winter Sun. The second pair is going to be with those yarn. I don't remember the name of the pattern, but I will insert the picture and also the pattern name there. So this is going to be for myself, and this one, the Winter Sun, is going to be for my mother-in-law. When I made this pair, I used 2mm needles and it was a bit small for me. So this time I'm going to try 2.5mm needles for myself first to be sure that I will hit the right gauge this time, and I will make the one for my mother-in-law. So I'm very much looking forward to those mittens. From the yarn that I have bought from them in the past, I have already in stash yarn for 2 pair of mittens. So with this I have 4 pairs of all over colorwork mittens waiting for me to start on. So I know that some people, they always like have a pair of socks on the go. Maybe I should always have a pair of mittens on the go. Especially I remember that I finished the first one and the second one was, yeah, a little bit of difficult process or procrastinated process, I would say. If you're going to visit Riga one day, I would highly recommend you to visit that shop. I will also put their address in the description box down below. I think a few months ago I saw from their Instagram that they're planning to shut down their business or close their physical store or something like that. And after a while they updated that they wanted to give it another shot and transform half of the boutique as a coffee shop and the other half still as yarn shop. So I know that it's run by the designer herself. They produce their own yarn, and the designer is Eva Ozolina. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And she's running this business with her husband. I don't think they have any help for their online presence, like their website or their social media pages. Nowadays, to run a small business like that, I think the social media is quite important. But yeah, anyway, so if you want to show some support, you can go check their Etsy shop, or when you visit Riga, you can also have a coffee and look at their beautiful yarn. They have also so many beautiful samples of mittens knit up there. I will try to insert some images. So that was really an amazing experience. And my last acquisition, it's not anything that I purchased, but it is a gift from my mother-in-law. And this is a traditional Latvian colorwork mittens. In this book, I believe it's mainly the colorwork charts that you can use for mittens or other projects, but maybe it's mainly mittens. I think this book is almost a vintage book, printed in 1980, I think. And there are, I don't know how many charts, like if I can show you really briefly, all these charts that are in here. So many beautiful charts of traditional Latvian colorworks. So there are already a couple of them that I really like. And I know that usually when I knit mittens with those yarns, I always have quite a lot of leftover at the end. I could make at least probably 2 pairs, if not 3, from the leftover yarns. Now for my future plans, probably I will cast on soon the weekend hat for my little brother, And I'm not sure when I'm going to cast on the mittens. We are going to visit my family soon again, and this is not a project that I'm going to take with me while we travel. But by the way, when I visited Latvia, I didn't have any whips with me. I know that some people, they have like so many whips with them. The main reason is that I don't have a checked luggage, and I'm always stressed that the airport security will not approve my metal needles. So I have mainly only metal needles, and the one bamboo needles that I have, it's 4mm, and I didn't have any projects planned with that needle, so that's why I didn't bring any with me. So for our next trip, I will have a checked luggage, so I can definitely bring some of my projects with me, but I'm not quite sure which one. I can cast on maybe the April cardigan for myself, but let's see. Now that I have a good amount of yarn in my stash, I'm going to slow down a little bit on my purchase, but in the future I am definitely planning to buy some other yarn than Peer Gynt. I consider myself extremely lucky to be living here where we have access to all this amazing yarn quality, but the Norwegian yarn, I only use Sandnes garn, and I wanted to try out other yarns, but I'm a little bit nervous to change to other yarn because I think in French we have an expression, we don't change the team that is winning. So if Peer Gynt is always winning, why change it, right? But yeah, I really want to try out other yarn. Rauma garn, I know it's Norwegian, and there's another one, I don't remember the name, but if you know any yarn in the Nordic yarn, the one that could be local to me that you would like to recommend, please let me know in the comments. I would love to try out other yarn that could be as successful as Peer Gynt, and I can have a nice choice of yarn in my collection for my future projects. So that's all about my knitting related update today. Thank you for being here, and thanks for watching until now. And if you're interested in sewing, I'm going to talk about the dress that I am wearing today. So basically this is a very simple wrap dress. I'm going to stand up to show you a little bit more. So it has right and the left panels, and there is a tie on the waist, and this is like a classic wrap dress. I made this dress about 5 years ago when I was living in Paris, and it was the beginning of my sewing journey. And back then I know that there is one wrap dress from Rouget, the French feminine dress brand that has this wrap dress which was quite popular. I remember that it was quite expensive, and as I'm short, I know that I wouldn't be able to find a dress that fit me perfectly, so I decided to make myself one. I pretty much freehanded the pattern, and as it was my early journey in sewing, it wasn't a perfect one. I made in total 3 versions of this dress. This is the 3rd version, so it was much better than the first 2 that I made, but there's still things that I could definitely improve if I'm going to make this dress again. And regarding the fabric, I bought this in one fabric shop in Paris, in their like discount bin. There was about maybe 1 meter or 1.5 meter left, and maybe I bought it for €5 or something. Usually when I make dress, I use for myself 1.5 meters if it's short sleeve, and 2 meters, not even 2 meters for a long sleeve. So I know how much fabric that I need to make a dress for me. Usually it's not that much. If you saw my channel homepage, you can see that there are some videos in the past that I made, the sewing related videos. I'm hoping to pick up sewing one day. Now it's just that I'm living in Norway. It's really convenient to knit nice sweaters for yourself that you can get a lot of wear of. And the dresses that I have made for myself this year is particularly interesting, that we are having a long hot summer, that I'm getting some wear out of them. But usually before it wasn't the case. I think for each summer I can barely get to wear my dresses. The other reason is also I made most of my dresses when I was living in Paris, and I had back then quite a different life. I was living in a city center, I didn't have kids, I was going out, a lot of occasion to go out and have fun and dress myself a little, but now I have a very different life. I'm living in Norwegian countryside, I have a toddler right now, and all I want from my clothes are that I need to be comfortable, I need to be able to run after my kid. So I really want to make more clothes for myself, but only the very practical and comfortable ones. I have a very big stash of fabric, so that is one thing that probably teach me a lot for knitting, is that I need to have a very specific project in mind in order to buy yarn. So as you might see, all of the yarns that I have a very specific projects for them. But before, when I started sewing about 6 years ago, I will go to a fabric shop really excited with all the fabrics that I found there, amazed with everything, and I would just buy fabric. They usually sell like this 3 meters of fabrics that's already cut. So you just buy 3 meters of cotton, 3 meters of anything, and you can make basically anything out of 3 meters. A dress, a top, or a pair of pants. So I have bought so many fabrics and they're still in my stash. So I need to do something about them. And they're still very beautiful and good quality fabric, so I'm not mad about that, but I need to find projects and sew them. And for the yarn, that's why I am really avoiding to have an excessive amount of yarn, especially if I don't know what to do with them. Even though it's on sale, even though it's like the most gorgeous color available, I will still stop myself from buying that yarn just simply because I don't have any plans for them. So yeah, I was about to talk about this dress, but I rambled so much afterwards. But basically, if you're interested about this dress, I will see if there are any tutorial or any pattern that are similar to this one, or if one day I'm going to make this one again, I will try to film a tutorial. So let me know in the comments if anyone is even interested in making this. So that's all for me today. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in my next podcast. Bye!